Hey guys, Micah Gallant here. I just want to share some exciting news, something I'm very excited about. I just recently ordered a MacBook Pro to replace my 2006 MacBook. Now I'm very excited, although it's probably not what you think. What you're looking at here is actually 2008, an early 2008 MacBook Pro, and it's currently not working. I just got it off eBay. I'm waiting for it to get shipped here. I have no idea if it works or not, um, but it's very exciting. My MacBook, and I'll just show you the specs of my MacBook here. So it is the 2 gigahertz Intel Core Duo 2, Core 2 Duo. There is a difference, I guess, there. And this is I think it's an early 2006 MacBook, white MacBook that I'm running, that I'm actually recording this on right now. And this white MacBook, it's 13-inch. It has performed flawless for me. I really have no complaints. It's held up. I've not had any issues with breakdowns, fans or things. The case on it has a little bit of a crack in it, but that's not a big deal. You can see I did upgrade to the 4 gigabyte RAM here. Now, the 2006 model of the MacBook 13-inch only supports up to 3. But to get 3, you got to put 4 gigs in there. So that's why I chose 4, but it actually only has 3 usable. And if I were to show you my whole screen, actually, you'd see that it's actually only 3 usable there. But anyways, just want to show you a few more specs here. So it is a 2 gig. My graphics is an Intel GMA 950, 64 megabyte, and I've been doing all my YouTube videos on there. I just installed an SSD. The SSD actually is able to perform better than this MacBook can actually make use of it in terms of speed. The bus for the hard drive is the original SATA 1.5 gigabit per second, I think, or whatever. And the SSD that I have is, I think it's a SATA 2 or something. It's not top of the line, but it's certainly quicker than the computer can handle. Not that that changes with the MacBook Pro, actually, which I'll get into. But anyways, so you see the software I have here is Mac OS X Lion 10.7.5. That's actually the very, very latest operating system that I can run on it. I cannot get anything more than 10.7.5. This is absolutely the end. And the reason is because this isn't a full 64-bit MacBook. The early 2006, I think it was, didn't, like, the EFI was 32-bit, not 64, while the rest of the system was 64. So it's kind of half 64-bit, half 32-bit, but it couldn't fully load the operating system in full 64-bit mode. So I've been really held back, and that's actually why I can't get Mavericks or Yosemite on this unit. So it's got, it shows a 13.1-inch display to prove that I'm on there, 64 megabyte graphics, which I showed you. And you can see I have a 256 gig drive, so this is the SSD that it's running on right now. I actually, you notice that I have a lot of free space. I actually had to offload 400 gig iPhoto album, and my whole, I think it's 40 gig iTunes library. It's all on a network attached storage. And here you see the RAM here, 2 gigs and 2 gigs. So 2 SODIMMs of 2 gigs each. But of course it only reads 3. It only actually makes use of 3 because it's 32-bit, not 64. I believe that's why it does, although it does show 4 gigs installed. So that is that. These are some pictures from the MacBook Pro that I got, and I'll show you the specs in a second here. So you can see, I don't know if you can see there, but it's the 2.6 gigahertz Core 2 Duo. It comes installed with 2 gigs. Actually, the one I'm getting, it actually has 4 gigs. It was upgraded. It has 512 megabytes of video RAM, which is going to be a crazy improvement over my 64 megabyte video RAM right now on my 13-inch MacBook. And stock, it came with a 7200 RPM drive. Now the unit I got does not have a hard drive in it, likely because it was thrown away because the video stopped working. It's the I've Googled it a bunch, and apparently the early 2008 MacBook Pros with the GT, you know, what is it, 8500 series or whatever graphics chips have overheating problems, and they desolder themselves, rendering the motherboard useless. And more may get unsoldered than just the graphics chip too. So you have to get those replaced. And there actually was an Apple replacement period from 2008 to 2012, actually 4 years of time where they would actually replace the graphics chip, I guess the motherboard, the logic board, for free from NVIDIA. So obviously, this is 2015, and I'm just getting 2008 MacBook Pro. But as you'll see, I think I can fix this. I think what I might need to do is bake the logic board or use a heat gun to fix it. But I'll do some videos on that once I troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on. But I'm very excited about this because this is going to be a massive improvement. I'll get to the specs and then I'll talk about why I think it's going to improve. Actually, I'll show you some pictures of it first. So this picture just shows a bit of scuff and a bit of a bending in the case down here a little bit, and there's some kind of scuffs. But the remarks on this particular eBay item was that the case was fairly good condition. You'll see that it has a battery. Battery probably needs replacing. You see down here, it's a little bulged out, and I think one of the corners was banged up pretty bad. Yeah, so you see it bulged out around the front by the button there. And this is by the SuperDrive. The aluminum case is bulging there. So this is the early 2008 model is apparently, well, it is the model just before they went to unibody Mac Pros in late 2008. And I actually like this version as well. I actually don't like the look of the late 2008 unibodies. I find I like the idea of the speakers on the side, and the unibodies don't have it. I think the unibodies go with the idea of the speakers in the hinge, which is where my MacBook speaker is down there. And so I like this. This is all aluminum keyboard. The new MacBooks, well, it could be plastic underneath, I suppose, but the aluminum body, sorry, the unibody MacBook Pros and all the MacBooks going forward are all plastic keys, like just black plastic and everything. So I really like this, and I think it's going to be quite an upgrade. Just a 15-inch screen from my 13-inch screen. I am starting to do a fair bit of work on my MacBook again, making use of it for heavy processing videos especially, and this thing is a workhorse for me. I have absolutely no complaints with my 13-inch MacBook. So I want to show you some specs here, and this is from everymac.com. And so what I got up here is the MacBook Pro 2.6 gigahertz 15-inch model from 2008, and then I got over here my existing MacBook, which is a 13-inch 2 gig. So a couple of initial notes is that the MacBook Pro can be upgraded to 6 gigs. On paper it was only upgradable to 4 gigs, but I forget who found it out, but anyways, after it was released they found out you could put up to 6 gigs in it and it works fine. Similar to my MacBook, reading up to 3 gigs when the specs actually showed only 2 gigs. So I'm going to be able to double my RAM. The processor in this is actually the top of the line of the 2008 model. It was a custom build to order MacBook Pro with the high-end CPU in it, and along with the high-end CPU came the high-end video card, which came with 512 megabytes of RAM. The low end, which I think is a 2.4 gig, only came with 256 megabytes of RAM on the video chip, which is still a massive improvement over what my MacBook is. Regardless, I'm really excited that I got kind of the top of the line MacBook Pro that I could here, and it's kind of the last of the MacBook Pros that I remember that are, that I like the look of and that are neat. And I hear the keyboards are amazing on this particular one as well. I think it was IMNC's the guy there, whatever his name is. I just found his channel. He went through the same experience about a year ago when he got his first MacBook, early 2008 MacBook Pro. Alright, so what are the differences here? Let's see. So my MacBook was released in November 2006. I think this is the model after mine, actually, because mine was before that, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, and then the MacBook Pro here was released in 2008, February 2008. They each have 2 cores. They have some Geekbench stats. I won't compare that. The processor speed, 2.6 gig versus 2 gig. So that's an improvement there right off the bat. Both Core 2 Duos. The architecture here is 64-bit, and it says 64-bit on each side, but we'll see a bit further down below the EFI architecture, which is 32-bit. Actually, it's right here. I'll just point it out right now, and that's why this is going to be a massive improvement over mine. Not just the RAM, not just the CPU, but also the 64-bitness. It's going to be running in full 64-bit OS. So it's going to be using the processing a lot faster. So that is sweet right there. The system bus 800 megahertz versus 667. L2 cache. The L1 cache is the same. The L2 cache is an extra couple of megs, which is great. Now the maximum RAM. This says 4 gigs here. Again, I think this is the newer model MacBook. Mine is actually only 2. 2 officially, and recognizes 3, but that may be what the star means there. Now the video cards, in the MacBook Pro is the GeForce 8600 MGT, and in mine is the Intel GMA 950. Now that the GMA 950 obviously has the 64 megabytes of video RAM, and obviously that's what you use to render graphics on screen and also do some of the processing of videos and all that good stuff. So by going to the MacBook Pro, I am going to I don't even know what 64 into 512 megabytes is. Let me pull my calculator here. Let's just see. Boy, my calculator bounced a few times there. 512 divided by 64. Oh, 8 even. Okay, so it's going to be 8 times the RAM of my MacBook. That is massive, and that is going to really improve the GUI for one, which is going to need, because I'm going to be running Yosemite on it if I get it going. I cross my fingers. And I'll also be doing lots of heavy video editing, which I'm getting this for. That's one of the purposes. Now it is also a 15.4 inch screen versus the 13.3 screen. I like the 13-inch MacBook. It's a nice size, but I find I'm using it more and more for more kind of business-related needs versus just recreational. And so I'm interested to see and use the extra real estate. I mean, I use a 20-inch screen for my 9-to-5 day job sort of thing, and I really like the real estate, having that real estate to do things in iWeb. Yes, I do use iWeb, iPhoto, iMovie. The extra real estate really helps, so you don't have to expand and contract the wizards and the windows and the widgets and whatever. So that's going to be really nice. And the MacBook Pro also comes with a higher resolution, which is going to fit the larger screen there. The hard drives I don't care about. I've got a 256 gig SSD that I'm just going to clone it actually. Probably what I'll do is I'm going to wipe my SSD clean, and then install Yosemite fresh as I can anyways, and then use Migration Assistant to move it over there. It has an 8 times DL super drive versus the 6 time. Now I'm likely going to take that super drive out and actually use what's called a drive caddy or a data doubler. Those are product names basically. They're chassis so that you can remove the DVD CD player in the MacBook, and actually you can do it in my 13-inch MacBook as well. But there's one that you can put into the MacBook Pro where you can have 2 different drives in the MacBook Pro. So I'm going to have I will have my SSD in there, my 256, and then I'll probably put, at least for now, my 500 gig hard drive in there, and that will house my iPhoto library on the laptop and my iTunes, so I no longer have to spin it off the network attached storage, which is really slow over Wi-Fi actually. It does work, but it's laggy and it's kind of annoying, and in this day and age, shouldn't have to deal with that. I should be able to put it on my MacBook. I just couldn't afford a 500 gigabyte SSD. So the ability to have 2 hard drives in a laptop means you can really make put a fast SSD in there for the OS boot drive, and then put a slower disk drive in there for the mass storage capability. And Time Machine will work the same. It'll back up data from both, and that part is no different actually. So I'll keep using Time Machine for that. In terms of connectivity, they each have the 10100, 1000 base T Ethernet ports. They have the same wireless. Bluetooth I don't use. I think everything else is the same. The MacBook Pro has the 400 and the 800 FireWire. I don't use that. Every time I go looking for FireWire, my most recent time I was looking for FireWire was when I was looking for a hard drive enclosure backup drive, and you really can't find any out there that are FireWire unless you buy it off Apple for 3 times the price. Most of the mainstream ones, the easily available ones at Future Shop and that sort of thing, are all USB. So I don't use FireWire a lot. I used to use it for my video camera that I had, but I don't have a video camera anymore, and everything these days is USB. So that's kind of neither here nor there. This one does have the express card in the side, the express card slot, which they removed when they went to the unibody, I believe. It's pretty old school. It's basically the PCMCIA slot. It's interesting. I don't know what I'll do with it. There's express cards that give you an extra 2 USB ports, which might come in handy, but I don't often have that many USB devices plugged in, to be honest. I don't plug in an external keyboard often. I rarely even plug in a mouse. Usually I just use the trackpad, unless I have it hooked up to an external monitor. Yeah, that would be the only time I'd have all the extras plugged in. So we'll see, and that's if I'm doing hardcore work here. So yeah, the subfamily, early 2008 is the MacBook Pro, late 2006 is the MacBook, but again, I think my MacBook was the early 2006 because, yeah, I think it was the early one. Regardless, the battery in the MacBook Pro is an extra 5 watt-hours. Not a big deal. My battery in this one only lasts about an hour in my 13-inch MacBook. With 2 hard drives in a MacBook Pro, I wouldn't expect it to last a lot longer anyways, and it probably needs a new battery as well. Now the original OS it came with was 10.5, but the maximum OS you can do is the current. It will actually accept Yosemite, versus my MacBook, which I maxed out at 10.5, which you saw. Let's see. Just pull up about the Mac here. Yeah, see, I got it maxed out at 10.7.5, like I was saying. So I'll just take that out of the screen there. They have references for what Windows OS it runs, but I never run Windows or virtualization. Now, an interesting thing was the cost here. My original MacBook, I had upgraded. I think I think I upgraded the RAM out of the box. I paid about $1,700 Canadian, $1,700 or $1,800 for Canadian for my 13-inch MacBook, brand new. It's fascinating that the price of this brand new was $2,700 US. So that would be over $3,000 Canadian. That I would have paid at the same time, around the same time, basically. It's very interesting. Then you see the current estimated retail price, $400 to $525. I paid about $250 including shipping because the MacBook is busted. So I have high hopes that I can repair it one way or another. We shall see how that goes, but I really think this is going to be a massive, massive upgrade. I'm very excited to get this. I think it will improve my video processing time immensely. I think I would expect it would cut it by half, if not better. This is massive horsepower compared to my MacBook, even though it's only 2 years newer than my MacBook. It's not 2014, 2015 or something. Stepping up from kind of the consumer grade MacBook to the prosumer or professional MacBook Pro, in terms of the electronics in it, the hardware in it, that's a massive step in performance. So I really have high expectations. I'm excited that I can get the latest operating system in Yosemite. My plans are eventually to basically stick the other hard drive in there so I can get all my data on one drive. And I plan to upgrade the RAM to the full 6 gigs. I think it will likely gobble up as much as it can. I really was wanting to get a 2010 MacBook because it will take up to 8 gigs of RAM, I think. Maybe the 2009s do that. Actually, it might have been the late 2008s that actually, the unibody that accepted 8 gigs as well. Regardless, I wanted this style of MacBook Pro, this kind of old style aluminum with the speakers on it. I just like this old style. Plus, obviously, the older it is, the cheaper it is, so that works out too. So I wish I could have got something that allowed for 8 gigs, but 6 gigs along with a 512 megabyte NVIDIA GT 6800 or whatever it was, that should provide plenty of processing horsepower for what I need for the next couple of years, for sure. And then what I may just end up doing is, 2 years from now, maybe I'll go ahead and get the the 2010 or 2011 MacBook Pro. By that time, those will be cheap as well. Yeah, so back to I digress from what I was saying about in terms of upgrades. I plan to put Yosemite on it. That affords me the ability to get current with all my software, which means my latest, the highest performance software for editing videos. I'm not that hardcore of a video processor. I'm not processing 10, 15 gigs worth of video files into feature-length movies. So I don't need the bleeding edge, top of the line sort of software like Final Cut Pro. I really just need a good iMovie or maybe a third-party video software that's processes and renders a bit quicker to get my videos done in a decent amount of time instead of waiting, say an hour for a 10-minute video. If I can process that in say 20 minutes, well, I'm a lot farther ahead. I can do 3 an hour sort of idea. I'd also like software where I can actually bulk render or process them. So, if I put together 3 different videos, I can put them in a list and tell the software go ahead and process render them and maybe even upload them to YouTube all at once. I mean, that'd be my ideal. But anyways, this video is getting a little long. I'll probably split it in 2 and do a part 1, part 2. But I wanted to show that to you. I'm excited about it. This has been the first upgrade, literally in 2015. Take away 2006. it's almost been 10 years. It will be 10 years next year that I've had a new computer, and this MacBook has been stellar, really. The latest SSD I got for it was to improve performance, but I think what I've done now, I've kind of opened up, I've increased all the hardware as much as I can. The only thing I could have done was the SSD, which I just did do. I have no other avenues. I can't actually get the latest software, video editing software for this MacBook, because all the software on the App Store only run on Yosemite, for example, or Mavericks. They require the full 64-bit system or whatever. And I can't even find any old software for sale that will run on this. So I'm stuck with the version of iMovie that I have. So I'm really hoping this will, that I can get it going for one, and I'll do a video on that, and maybe the baking process or the heat gun process, whatever I think you know, makes most sense there. I hope I don't fry my logic board, but I'll follow the instructions of the guys who know how to do it, and who have done it. But I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a big upgrade for me, and I'm excited to show it to you guys, and hopefully let the 2008 MacBook Pro live for a few more years. I know there's a good following on YouTube interested in the old MacBook 2000 Pros, and any MacBook or Apple computer for that matter. So yeah, I just wanted to show that to you, and very excited. I hope you're interested in it like I am, and I will show this to you as soon as I get it. I'll do an unboxing, just like this IMNC guy did. He did an unboxing of a really old iMac, and I thought it was humorous, but it was interesting. You know, doing an unboxing of a 7 or 8 year old computer is kind of interesting. So I'll do the unboxing, and I'll do a troubleshooting video, and then the baking video if I need that. Hopefully I won't, but I'm guessing I will. And yeah, I'll just show you what I got, and maybe we'll do a performance analysis too before I sell my MacBook. So, alright, that's it, guys. This will probably be a 2-part series, but thanks for watching, and I hope that was interesting for you guys, and we'll talk to you later.